On today's episode of the Wild Party Podcast, I talk to a woman who is quietly revolutionizing your closet, one intentional piece at a time. Telicia Bunch is the founder of Lorrel, a sustainable fashion brand inspired by her grandmother's legacy and built on decades of industry experience. After working behind the scenes as a technical designer for over 25 years, Telicia saw firsthand the waste, injustice, and overproduction plaguing fast fashion. So she did something radical. She slowed it all down. She launched Laurel to offer timeless capsule collections made ethically in Los Angeles, designed to be worn multiple ways, and built to last. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by your closet, frustrated with fast fashion, or just want to wear clothes that actually fit your life and values, this episode is for you. Let's get the party started. Welcome to the Wild Party Podcast, where we celebrate the visionaries behind vegan, ethical, and sustainable business. In each episode, we'll dive deep into their journeys, uncovering the why behind their mission-driven business. I'm your host, Stephanie Lahart. Tune in with me for passionate discussions about overcoming challenges, innovative marketing strategies, and the power of using business as a force for good. So whether you're an entrepreneur seeking guidance or a conscious consumer wanting to support impactful brands, join us as we explore the stories behind the businesses that are changing the world for the better. Let's get the party started. Today's guest is a fashion industry veteran who is redefining what it means to dress with intention. Telicia Bunch is the founder of Lorrel, a sustainable fashion brand built on the values of quality, integrity, and timeless style. After more than 26 years in the industry, Telicia launched Lorrel to create ethical pieces that support women and reduce waste. And you guys know I'm all about reducing this fashion waste, especially this year. So from her signature build-upon wardrobing system to her commitment to local manufacturing, she's leading a new fashion movement grounded in purpose and style. And I can't wait to hear all the behind the scenes of how this got started. So welcome to the show, Telicia.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. I'm excited to talk to you and to your listeners.
Absolutely. So I was really excited when I found out about you and your brand, because when I first saw it, I'm like, oh my God, I had a premonition of this in the 80s. Let me tell you what was going on. Let me tell you. Okay. So I'm a child of the 80s, born in 1970. So I was like hard hitting the malls in the 80s, back when the people still went to the malls, right? And there was this one store, and I can't even remember the name of it, but the concept was kind of similar, where it was these pieces that you would kind of stack upon each other, use with other pieces. It was supposed to be like a timeless wardrobe situation. But here was the problem with it. Most of it was like it was the 80s, okay? So it was a very baggy movement. Most of the clothes were very, very baggy. And their solution was to simply have like these tubes, almost like these tubes of fabric that you would just put on various parts of your body to create sleeves or around your waist and things like that. It
Mhm.
sounds scary, but listen, on the models, especially the mannequins, it looked gorgeous. However, I'm a very tiny person. I'm 5'2", and back in the 80s, I mean, I was like, prepubescent. I was just a 10, and this stuff never worked on me because there wasn't enough of me to wrap these tubes around me.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is somebody had the idea, but it was a failure because it's not around anymore. And then you come along, I see your collection, and I'm like, that is the collection that would fit me. So please, let's get into how you've thought of this idea, how you got this business going, and what pieces we are going to style on me, because I want to try it all. I was so excited to see it.
Amazing. Well, I may have forgotten about that until you just said they were called units. And I actually had it was probably the head thing that I would wear as like a skirt.
Yes, yes, that was it. But like I said, it didn't work on smaller people. You didn't have enough space to do stuff.
Right.
It was a baggy movement. It doesn't matter. Like I said, I don't even think they're around and we don't care about them because
No.
your style is way different. And that is because you actually have style and you have this experience. So take me back. Tell me what was going on in your career because you are actually 20 over a 25-year veteran of the fashion industry. So you know what you're doing.
Yes.
So what were you doing in the beginning? Like were you a stylist? Were you creating fashion? Where did you start?
I've worked my entire career as a technical designer. That's the person that's responsible for fit. So, or I like to say the one that makes the dreams come true. So we take the sketches from the designer and we give measurements to give to the factories to create the garments, and then we'll fit the garments, tweak them here and there. So if something doesn't fit, essentially, it's my fault or the factories. But it was working and seeing the product side of things that really is when early on in my career, very early on, like 1 or 2 years in, um, after going abroad and seeing working conditions of people, I'm just like, this isn't fair. You know, seeing how little these people are getting paid. Um, and in China, especially, they are usually from the poorer areas of town, are living in dormitory style homes. They get to see their family. They get to leave like basically during Chinese New Year when they shut down to see their families like once a year and getting paid very little to make these clothing, but then also having to pay rent in these dormitory style homes that they're forced to live in. So from there, I just knew that overseas production really wasn't the best option. Um, and then it was probably midpoint in my career where I started working with domestic production. And just the fact that you can go in, talk to the pattern maker, see the people making the garments is what made me feel better, a little bit better about what I was doing. And, I can make sure that, there isn't child labor actually happening in these factories that we're working with. Um, so I think that's really where the whole desire to have things produced ethically came from. Um, Sustainably speaking, the waste that comes from fashion is grotesque. I mean, I think there's like 16 million tons of waste, fashion waste that goes in. And, everybody sees the sales and things that don't get sold. They walk into the sample sales or, these major sales that are happening at the end of the year. Part of it is because we've created this environment where in order to get better pricing, you have to overproduce. So you're producing units in the thousands that you don't need. So, number one. But behind that is the two to get to one development. So we're going to make two samples to get to one, and we're going to fit them like a whole bunch of times. Well, now you've got, depending on the company that you work for, what the condition of the garment is, you've got these samples that are either cut up or ill-fitting, and you'll do that over and over and over again until you get, well, ideally 3 times, but still that's 3 rounds of garments that go nowhere. And so I think the back end is what people don't really see, is what also creates the waste because those samples are flown over. So multiple rounds of that flown over. So it's it's a huge waste internally, but also obviously externally when it gets to the customers. And then you've got the fast fashion now that's throwaway fashion. People are, joking online about how they're breaking out because of this shirt that they got from one of these fast fashion companies. But what I don't think anybody thinks about is, okay, well, if one person is breaking out from that shirt, what about the poor person that's making thousands of those and touching thousands of those every single day? What about that person? Um, so my, I think the fashion industry as a whole needs to change the way that it's been operating. It's been operating in a very antiquated way. Um, and I think that the way that we're producing needs to change. The amount that we're producing needs to change. We need to push back on factories if it is overseas production and say, you know what, we're not making thousands and thousands of units just to get it for $8 for the cut and make so that I can sell it for $300, whatever the case may be. I think making less and getting quality garments um, that you can sell at a better price, pay people a better salary to the people that are making the garments, and just it needs to be more ethical, number one. And again, number two, stop overproducing.
Yeah, you, first of all, you just pretty much touched on every point that we're going to discuss a little bit more in depth.
Yep.
But that's exactly it. So I live in Los Angeles. There's a lot of these old style, what we call Hollywood bungalow type apartment buildings still around. And when you walk in, the first people always say is like, either, wow, there's no closets, or the closets are so tiny. Like you go in the bedroom and the closet is, I mean, I don't even have it like the size of like a locker almost, right? Because people forget back as it's not even that far, maybe, 80 years ago, people had really maybe five pieces of clothing. You would
Right,
have your one night's dress, you would have your home dress, you would have your work dress, and you might have a play dress kind of thing. We
right,
didn't have closets and closets and storage units stuffed with clothing that we couldn't possibly ever wear, maybe even more than once or twice. Now, I'm not saying people, I'm saying myself included, because I'm telling you right now, I own too many clothes and I understand this. And I have been very much trying this year not to buy anything. But you're right. We're in this consumerism age where we're so used to purchase, 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 and being taught that special event means brand new outfit all the time.
right,
And oh, it's not even about like going back and just maybe altering or repairing something you already have. It's like, no, that has a button missing. Now it's trash. Now I need something brand new again, and then add on to that, like you said, the fast fashion. Also, a big part of the problem is that we all got into the psychology that we could possibly donate and recycle these clothes. So these bins are all over Los Angeles. Donate your clothes, right?
right,
That we both know they don't go to donation. They get packed in shipping containers and they get sent over to these other countries. And unfortunately, it's continents like Africa and countries like Ghana that are bearing the brunt of it. When I first saw the documentaries on Ghana, I was so horrified I was actually crying because I'm like, this isn't going to stop anytime soon. It's literally, they've just made it like garbage heaps on the beach. And you know
right,
full and well of this. It really
right.
gets upsetting when I think about it because I'm like, how do we stop this onslaught of fabric, So that was another thing I really, really liked about Laurel when I saw your collection. I'm like, these are pieces that you can not only, use within other pieces, like creating different looks, but they're made in such a way that you would be able to potentially, hand them down like, and I'm not saying into one of these bins, but like, give them to a sister or a friend or somebody that saw it on you and said, oh, I love the way that looks on you, Telicia. And you're like, oh, here, you wear it, knowing that it's going to be able to withstand somebody else wearing it. And we don't have that in fashion. Like you said, everything's meant to be thrown away. So, it gets very overwhelming from a consumer standpoint of how do we fix it? How do we not become part of the problem?
Right,
And still, maybe have the proper outfit we need when we have to go on a job interview. Because
right,
then it's like all bets off. I'm getting a brand new interview because I need this job, right?
right.
But I think, just as a society and as a world, we have to have these bigger conversations, like you said, where we're
Yeah,
really looking at every piece and going right down to people who are creating the products as well. Because you're exactly right.
right,
It is people who are in poorer areas, people who are at a lower economic threshold, and they are forced into this line of work, and the recycling business is the same as well. So, when you decided then from your career in for, fashion, being more
mhm.
on the technical side, how did you then make the leap to I'm going to launch my own capsule collections and do it in the way I want to, but also as a business owner, you have to make money. So how are you managing all of that?
So in 2020, like many in the fashion industry, I was furloughed, and my mom, who was alive at the time, was like, "Why don't you do that thing that you've been talking about doing?" And quite frankly, the timing couldn't have been better. I was literally forced to sit with my thoughts about what it should be, and it kept coming back to my grandma. Um, she is the reason I'm in fashion. It was playing dress up in her closet and hearing stories about how she used fashion to advance her career. When my grandparents got divorced in the 50s, she was left to raise my dad and my uncle on her own. She got the only job that a black woman in Galesburg, Illinois could get at the time, and that was as a bathroom attendant at the high-end dining establishment. Now, she had dropped out of college to marry my grandfather and then didn't have the life that she wanted. So this wasn't her career path, her goal career, but um she always looked great. She always had a sense of fashion, but she didn't have the money to buy clothing. So she would buy quality pieces and mix and match them to create unique looks. And she just was always put together. So the ladies in the bathroom would always comment or like whatever. She would give fashion advice to the ladies. And this helped her move up to coat check and then eventually waitress, where she was able to save up enough money to buy a home for her and her boys. And our logo is actually the signature from the deed of that house. It's the house that I played dress up in. And then during my lifetime, she was the top seller at Sears because basically the same thing. She would give fashion advice to her clients. Um, so really, like it just kept coming back to grandma and how she dressed. And I probably did a little bit of that, even though my closet is because I work in fashion and would either take these samples home that are going to end up in the garbage. Um, I would still wear things like maybe even though it's a technically a swim cover up, I'd throw a leather jacket over it and make it season, like wear it all season. So when coming up with the concept of the line, it was how can I do my part to create garments that can get multiple uses out of? So literally, there's always going to be a piece in the collection that can be worn front to back to create two looks in one. Um, the dress that I'm wearing now can be worn as you can tuck in the neckline and get a V-neck. You can wear it as a jacket. You can wear it as a top. You can put a belt on it. Um, everything's meant to be dressed up, dressed down, and again, literally turned around to get as much as you possibly can out of your garments. And then the build upon wardrobe concept is a little bit of that as well. It's buying that quote unquote summer dress. So, for example, there's a sleeveless dress in the collection, um, and a sleeveless jumpsuit. Well, you can wear that in the summer, and in the winter, throw the garment that you can wear as a jacket over it. So then you've got a more winterized look, or layer the turtleneck underneath to get a winter look. And again, like building your wardrobe in a way that all of the colors in the line are designed to work with multiple different things. You can always wear it with black. You can always wear it with tan, with green, with blue, with cream. The colors are intentionally chosen to be seasonless and to work with items that you already own. I would love that people only wore Laurel, but I realize that that they're going to buy something else. So maybe they have a favorite pair of slacks or a skirt or jeans. Well, the colors are designed so that you can wear that with other items that you already own. So building your wardrobe.
Yeah, I really love that concept. So I was all over your Instagram today, in preparation for this interview. And I did love how you were actually in the videos that you were in, showing how these different styles, could be worn. In fact, there was one video, you might have been wearing that dress actually. If you guys aren't watching the YouTube version of it, pop over later so you can see this lovely dress. But you had paired a belt with it that I had not expected. And I'm like, I never even thought of that. I'm like, that's a great idea. And I think by showing people, because you know what, not everybody has a really great sense of style, knows how to put it together. But then to see something else, be like, look, you don't have to make everything matchy matchy. And sometimes it's the unexpected that really makes the outfit pop, which is why stylists, get paid so much because they have that eye of being able to take these different things together. And so I really, love that now we do have things like social media so people can go on there and see how other people have styled it and get ideas and things like that. Because I did notice on your website, you had also done that with each piece. You showed a wide variety of how everything could be, worn. And I love that because, like I said, not everybody's going to really know how to pull this stuff together without, really kind of copying, like, what do you say, just reusing the same look over and over and be like, oh, now I'm bored with it. Now I want to get rid of it. So I think that education process too is something that we also need as a culture is just, learn how to style, like learn how to put stuff together. Don't be lazy about it and just think I'll just grab whatever because your clothes should last a lifetime. In fact, I'll let you know, I have quite a big vintage collection from the 20s, 30s, and 40s. These
Mhm.
are beautifully made dresses, many of them handmade that are going to last another 40, 50 years.
Right.
And I can't tell you most of the stuff that I've bought, let's just say, off the rack in the last 20 years is going to have that kind of lifetime. But again, it's going back to where people expected only to have a few outfits and that was it. And they, valued them, I think, a lot more too. So with that said, the cuts of your outfits, or I keep calling them outfits, the cuts of your pieces are so unique. What I really love about it, we touched on that brand from the 80s. And the problem with that, everything was just kind of like a baggy t-shirt blousey, which yours is not. You have cuts, like you have silhouettes, you have styles. So, what does it go into being able to create a piece that's going to fit on such a wide variety of body types? Because again, I'm very petite, and I did see on your website you were showing the same outfit on a huge selection of different body types. And I love that because I'm like, oh, a lot of people could wear this. So, tell me like what goes into the back end when you're designing a piece or a concept. How do you make sure it is going to translate to different body types and I guess heights and things like that?
Right. Well, that comes into what I do as a living, as a technical designer, understanding that you start with one size and then it has to fit multiple different people. So, when I was the first collection was really designed, the ideas came up like basically during COVID when everyone was sitting at home. So everything is elastic waist and really loose. Um, but so that, people could work from home, feel comfortable, not feel confined. Um, there is the pant that is in there is a longer pant that even I'm 5'1", I have to hem. However, the jumpsuit is designed to sort of bag at the leg, so it really can, and jumpsuits, again, everyone's waist is in a different position, but because it's an elastic waist and it has a belt, you can pull it up and put it at your natural waist, but the leg is meant to pull sort of on a shorter person, but then, hang straight on a taller person. And then the second collection that I'm really excited about, because I do think that the first collection, um, I need to explain more about how to wear the garments. And the learning lesson with the second collection was make it obvious that it can be done, like it's so obvious it's not even funny, but um I am working with hems on the pants so that, for the taller person, you'll see a little ankle, but on the shorter person it'll cover, maybe just the top of the shoe, but it still can be worn with booties or with heels and not look like you're wearing something that's too short or not. But then also the hems on the pants are wider so that somebody that's taller can let them out, but for the most part, they should fit a variety of people when it comes to lengths.
Yeah, and again, we can listen, shorties out there. You can take your pants to be hemmed. It's
Yeah.
okay. That was actually gratefully one of the lessons that my mother, gave me when we were growing up. I did take sewing lessons. I do know how to sew. I know how to hem. Listen, I'm not going into business hemming or being a seamstress, but I certainly know how to alter my clothes to make it fit me. And I think that's another skill that, we really have to revive, being able to sew on a button. Like if you get a little tear, you should be able to fix it.
Yeah.
In fact, I will let you know, I dated a guy once and he had a button was missing from his shirt and he pulled out a little sewing kit and started replacing, repairing his button. And I was floored. I said, what? And he said, "Oh, my grandmother taught me how to replace." Look, girl, listen, I'm just saying, it was a very good night for him. I'll just
That's
say
very
that. I was
reasonable.
so impressed by his button skills. But anyway, all right, let's get on to the business side because I love this story so much. But as we know, there's always a big leap from idea to action. So you're in the fashion industry, you decide you want to start launching your own line. So you know a bit about like, the behind the scenes of how stuff gets made.
Right.
But how did you get started? Where did you get the funding? And how did you really know to take it to the next step that I'm going to create this and then be able to sell it? What did that look like for you?
So, like I said, it was during the pandemic. I was furloughed, and so were a bunch of my other coworkers that I had always wanted to work with again. So we were able to come together. And again, this is what we do for a living. We are literally the people behind the garments that the brands that you know and love. So we're the ones making everything. So getting like this part of the getting the stuff made, that was no big deal. That's what we do every day for the companies that we work for. Finding funding was one of the biggest challenges. I finally did get a round of angel investment, and without it, I would not have been able to create this line. I got the investment, and had there not been supply chain issues, we would have launched in 5 months. But I was really, really trying very hard to make sure, one, I wanted as much as the garment to be made in the US as possible, including the fabric. That is unfortunately not an option. Um, so really then trying to find a great sustainable fabric has also been my biggest challenge. And my this upcoming collection, I'm really having to ask myself the question about sustainable fabric, whether to use it or to not. I'm having a problem finding quality sustainable fabric that is art that factory or mills are already stocking. So I'm off topic a little bit, but um, so the question was like once we got funding and once we found the fabric, it happens because that's what we do for a living. Um, but the fabric question again is really challenging because I'm finding that there aren't that many people that actually care about sustainable clothing as much as they say that they do. And so at one point, I think the mills had a better collection of sustainable fabrics. But now I'm finding that in order to get a sustainable fabric, a mill can make it, but they're saying, well, it's going to change the hand feel. We'd have to make you X amount of yards. You have to purchase X amount of yards, so on and so forth. So I'm really having to sit down and think like, what is better? Using what is already here, which I do believe in repurposing what's on the earth rather than extracting from it. It's why I do use recycled poly as opposed to organic cottons or tencel, which are trees, and we need trees to breathe. Um, but does it make what's more sustainable, using something that's already here or creating a subpar product that's going to end up getting thrown away? So that's the tough decision that I have to make right now. It doesn't mean that as I grow and as I get bigger, when I can actually use all of the fabric that I would be required to make, that I don't go back to the sustainable source, or as I grow and as this movement grows, finding mills that will have in stock sustainable fabrics that will work with smaller minimums so that I'm not making a bunch of stuff that doesn't need to be made.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it there right on the head. There's always that balance of do we use what is already created because we don't want to create more, or do we then have to create a new process? So there's always a trade-off, there's always a reaction for every action. And it's trying to figure out like kind of, I think, what is the least invasive to take. But I feel, what you're going through with that, because I think a lot of times people want to make the good choice. And then if the market's not supporting it, the manufacturers are like, well, we're not making that anymore. We don't sell it. People don't want it. But that doesn't mean in the future it's not going to change. So at least, you're creating a capsule wardrobe that people will have a longevity on. So even if
Right.
it's not the exact fabric choice you want it, the sustainable choice, you'll know that this garment will be used longer than being just thrown into kind of a landfill situation. Or funny enough, I was in a home decor store the other day, furniture store, and they had garment, like garment structures, whatever you want to, closets that you
Mhm.
could put in your closet kind of thing. And they want to show, clothes hanging in it. So they had all these clothes hanging in these closets. And when I looked at it, they were all the fast fashion stuff. And I laughed because I'm like, yeah, nobody's stealing that crap because I mean, crap as it is. But yeah, that's what they were using for their models in the closet. And we need to get beyond that. We need to, stop that. I don't even care at this point how we stop these companies, but that needs to stop. And then almost force us to make better choices,
Right.
like you are making with that. But you talked about something a couple notes back that I want to really touch on when you were talking about investing, because like I said, I was, watching your Instagrams and everything, and you brought up a really important topic, which was the diversity, inclusivity, and just the fact that, there's limited funding and availability specifically for women-owned businesses, for my no, for minority-owned businesses, for maybe businesses that don't have the track record. And I know you've been very vocal out there, making sure that, you're not just making Laurel success, but you want to bring women along on that journey. And I
Yeah.
really love that. So do you want to talk a little bit about, what's going on behind the scenes with you, or what you've been able to do as far as that to really bring that more to the forefront, just besides Instagram? Because it's such an important topic, obviously, what's going on in our country today. It's like we can't let everything that we kind of made strides on, including women, the right to vote, which, by the way, don't get me started on that amendment that has not been ratified. I've got a soapbox. Anyway, tell me then, how are we going to like make sure that we are still moving forward in the way we need to, that we're bringing all women along?
Right. So one of my proudest moments was when I became a 2023 semifinalist in the Black Ambition Prize. This was basically 6 months into my selling, that I applied, and it's a grant that Pharrell Williams put together. He started it in 2020, and it was basically to close the gap between Black founders and investors. And the first prize is $1 million grant. And then there's different prizes throughout. I think there's like 250, 50, 75, what have you. Um, at the time, I think, don't quote me on the number, it was thrown out there. I don't know if it's exact, but about 5,000 people applied and 250 made it to semifinalists. And for me, that was acknowledgement that what I have is a valuable product that has legs and can, is deserves funding. But also it provided education and a network. Um, so I I spent the time during 2020 to sort of go to these webinars and put together what a pitch deck was and what funding meant, like different rounds of funding, but really to have the education on what all of this means, that wasn't there. So Black Ambition definitely provided that, but it also provided a network of other amazing Black-owned founders. So one of the ladies in the group, we after 2023, we'd started a beauty fashion group chat. And one of the women came up with what I think is a brilliant idea was during Black History Month, every day we will post about another Black-owned brand. So not only are we helping each other, we're exposing other brands to our audience. Um, I think somebody said it like, I'm gonna completely mess up the quote, but like when one wins, we all win. It truly is. It truly takes a village to make small businesses thrive. And I mean, I hate to say it does that doesn't it that stands for whatever color, but I mean, especially with small Black-owned businesses, we don't have the access to funding or education. That's why I'm so grateful to have gotten the opportunity. Even though I didn't win the $1 million, I won knowledge that can't be taken away from me. They've shown me things that I can't unseen that I now like, really, really work hard to move forward with.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you got to see behind the curtain and also build this really powerful network, because you're exactly right. We have to lift up other small businesses. In fact, one of the goals of this podcast is exactly that. I've been in marketing, practically my whole career. And when I really decided I wanted to do a podcast, I'm like, I want to do small business owners, and I want to keep building their networks, and I want to introduce them to each other. And you'll get an email from our producer after this saying, hey, is there anybody you want to recommend for the podcast? Because we want to make sure that everybody really has a voice out there and gets the word out about what they're doing. So with that said, let's talk a little bit about your marketing strategy. So you had this idea for the timeless capsule. You knew how to create the product. What was the next step then, making sure that the market was going to know about Laurel and be able to get excited about it and then purchase it. Because launching online always sounds very exciting, but the internet is a very vast black hole of just like you could get lost very quickly. And social media too. We hear about, oh, overnight successes, but nobody's an overnight success. It takes a while to build your audience. So how have you been able to, reach your audience, build your marketing message, and really make sure that consumers know that there's this amazing product out there now for them?
That has been my biggest challenge, is with marketing. I thought, make this great product, put up a post, and I'm gonna sit back and watch the money roll in. Um, so it was through Black Ambition, I had, got the guts to try for other pitches. And I did win a pitch contest, and the prize was a week-long store in Soho, a freestanding store. At the time, yeah, I was so excited about it. At the time, though, I think I had 300 followers. So, again, things that I learned, collaborate with other people, bring other people in. And the company Parasol Project was so great to let me bring in other companies. So I decided that I wanted to bring in either Black owned or women owned brands that obviously had a larger following than myself. And every night we would do an event to bring people in. So there was a candle company, a drink company, wine. All of the wine was curated for me from a Black women owned wine store in Brooklyn, and featuring all Black women owned wines. Um, and then another woman owned store. And so every night, my team and I, like I had some people helping me out with social media, they would literally stand outside and bring people in off of the street. In addition to everybody that all of the other designers, brand owners that were part of the whatever day that was, they had to post on their sites and send out invites and make sure that people came in. And I did grow my audience by I think 100 people then. So it's been slow and growing, through Black Ambition again, the group chat that we have. I met a woman that teaches us how to do PR, because I'm not at the point right now where I can afford a full blown PR company. So part of her program is to teach, to literally teach you like this is how you read a magazine. This editor does this editor does that. I never thought about that stuff before. Um, this is how you write a pitch to a magazine company. This is how you write a pitch to a podcast. This is how you write a pitch to a TV segment. They're all different. Um, so that was great. It's how I found you. And then there was through one of the things that she had sent me, I found a woman that has quite a large following, that has a blog, and also she did a giveaway, and I gained 100 followers from that. So, I'm growing slowly. I'm constantly begging people on Instagram to share, I like to say like, follow, shop, and share. Um, so it's growing slow, but I'm trying to figure out like what is the right way. I'm getting more confident in myself now outside of when I go outside. And if I'm at an event, I was out in Oak Bluffs last weekend. I met some ladies and we start talking and I'm like, "Will you follow me?" So, literally doing it like that now too.
Yeah, it sounds funny to say that, but let me tell you something. There's something called the tipping point in social media, where the first I always tell my clients because my main business is marketing. And we do a lot of social media marketing, and I always tell my clients the first 1,000 is the hardest.
Mhm.
Like just to get that, and then it starts to really pick up from there. And it's really is that across any social media platform you're using, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. The first 1,000 is the hardest. And
Right.
then you start to pick up some momentum from that. But honestly, yeah, it is about just asking people, follow me, share it, network. The whole link thing is very important to do that. that we call it like the link train. Like I'll mention you, you mention me,
Right,
sharing it across the board because what it does is it allows you to build a really powerful network of people that are like-minded. So you're bringing the same consumer along. So the consumer that would be interested in that candle brand would also be interested in your fashion brands, like the same person of, if the messaging is kind of the same. So I truly believe in that. So, as far as like social media, it's like you have to just keep doing it.
right,
And that's what nobody wants to hear. It is, I'm going to say this, it is a grind, but you have to keep doing it. You have to keep putting out the content so that the social media algorithms will start sharing it to more people. And listen, you get on that discovery panel of Instagram,
right.
next thing you know, you will have a couple thousand followers, but it could take a while to get there, and you don't know what they're going to pick up. So you have to keep just doing the shares. And I will say, the email that you did send to our producer, it was beautifully written because you were an immediate yes. Because some of the pitches we get, we have to look through and be like, how does this relate to what we're doing? They're making us try to write the story. So anybody out there listening, if you are pitching your brand or a story, you essentially have to write the story for the person and say, this is the story you would be telling. And then the person reading it say, great. So then you could say immediate yes or no, that fits in with it. And that's what reporters want to see too. You
Right.
can't just send a press release and then figure it, and then they have to sit there and figure it out of how it fits into whatever they're doing for their job. But yeah, your PR, let me tell you that you did yourself was time well spent because it was exactly perfect. You were an immediately yes. So
Thank you.
with that said, I want to make sure that everyone listening out there is going to be able to have the Laurel experience because it is so beautiful. And I know we talked a little bit about in the beginning. You teased me. You said, "Oh, I'm going to do a little promo code. Is that okay?" I'm like, "Please, yes and yes," because I am going to be buying some pieces for myself. So tell us where we can find you online and share that little code that you set up for us.
Yes, you can find us on Lorrel.com, Lorrel.com, on Instagram, the.Laurel, and then Wild Party 25 to receive 25% off this collection and also next collection. I am hoping that by the time this airs, the second collection will be out and everyone will get to wear even more pieces from Laurel.
Right. And to really start understanding, I think again, the great thing about what you've set up here is you're not just providing a beautiful fashion line, but you're actually re-educating consumers, which is what we need. We've just spent the last, 30, 40 years of being taught to consume fast fashion. And now we need to go back to a time where clothing meant something. You got a piece, you took care of it, it meant something, you handed it down. And it should be around for a long time and experience, much like again, the dresses that I have that are from the 20s and
Right.
still I can wear them. In fact, let me tell you a funny story. I just gifted a couple of these dresses that I was never going to wear again to my neighbor in my building who was in her, I guess, mid 20s. And she was so excited. And these pieces fit her so beautifully. And I could see that with your clothes too, that this would be something that you would be able to hand down, to kind of generations and be like, yes, you can still wear this. It's still timeless. It fits and it's gorgeous and they want to. So, that's our mindset that we're building here.
If you're following me on Instagram, if you go to the link, there is a crowdfunding link. Any amount will help keep us going and keep us moving forward so that we can continue to make amazing product, to market it the right way, and also, just help out a woman Black-owned business.
Totally true. Because we need to see more people like you and like me that are making the difference we want to see in the world. Because it starts with a party of one. If you're not going to be the person that's going to make the change, nobody's going to. And that's what I like to always say, be the jelly of the social donut. Be the person who everybody wants to be around. You just like build the social. Do you know about the social donut? We're going to
No.
talk. Okay, the social donut is a concept that was taught to me by a doyen of the club scene in the 80s of New York. Her name was Diane Brill. Wait, her name is still Diane Brill. She's still alive. She wrote a book. It was a fun little club manual, but she had this concept of the social donut about, really building this kind of orbit around you of these amazing people that everybody wanted to be a part of. And that is what I see in you. So,
Aw.
yes, we are the social donuts here. So, in fact, that's a great name for a brand.
Yes.
Anybody out there listening, feel free to take it. I don't think I'll be using it, although Diane Brill might already be using it. So, with that said, Telicia, thank you so much for being on the show. I've learned so much. It's been so much fun to talk to you and learn all about Lorrel and your brand and where it came from, and to be able to go shopping with that awesome discount code. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for talking with me. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Wild Party Podcast. If you're an entrepreneur or professional who would like to be on this podcast, please visit boomtownmarketing.com and click on podcast. We believe that every business has the potential to change the world for good, and we want to support our community to help make the world more ethical, compassionate, and sustainable for all future generations to come. And if you're looking to build your business, no matter what level you're at now, request your free marketing consultation at boomtownmarketing.com and click Get Started.